Quite an easy one, but I'm really pleased I got the design quite similar too.
Okay, so one thing I have learned over the years is that every country basically has one big medical discovery that they are super proud of. In France, it is pasteurization. In America, it's curing polio. In South Africa, it's open heart transplants. Here in Canada, it's insulin. And in Australia, it is penicillin. So that's my choice for P. What about Chris?
For P, I know it's already on one of the coins, but I've gone for platypus.
Little on the nose there, Chris, but let's see the answer.
Platypus.
All right, another point for Chris.
Oh wow, I think that's 4 in a row I've got right now.
So there aren't a lot of words that start with Q, except for Queen. But luckily, Australia has a whole state called Queensland. It is located here, and it is famous for its beaches and its proximity to the Great Barrier Reef. So how could Q not be for Queensland? Let's see what Chris did.
For Q, it's absolutely got to be quokka. They're these really cute little marsupials, and the internet loves them.
I had never heard of this beast before, so I googled it, and man, it is creepy looking. Its face is so expressive, and its proportions are so humanoid. It looks like a DreamWorks CGI character come to life. Anyway, the answer is...
Quokka.
Wow, another point for Chris. Nice job.
Yes, that's 5 in a row. I might actually win this thing. That's how happy I am right now.
I mean, I guess in retrospect, if Queensland got a coin, all of the other states would be jealous. I mean, imagine if there was a Canadian coin set where only Quebec got a coin. I imagine some people would probably get uppity about that. For R, I went with rugby. Australians love rugby. It is one of the many obscure sports that they have chosen to get very good at. In fact, pretty much every Rugby World Cup either features Australia in the finals or is hosted by Australia, or if not them, Australia Junior. So let's see Chris's choice for R.
R is for really not knowing what to put. I put reef for Great Barrier Reef, which is almost certainly wrong.
And the correct answer is...
Royal Flying Doctor Service.
All right.
I've never heard of that.
Okay, so I looked this up, and this is actually a pretty interesting service that makes sense as something that would be considered very iconically Australian. Here, let's watch their ad.
Australia's a very remote place, very large place with a sparse population. When someone lives on a property a long way away from medical care, they need help. The Royal Flying Doctor Service is an amazing organisation. We provide emergency care and primary health care to a large slice of remote Australia.
For S, I went with another iconic Australian sport, surfing. Those Australians, they love to surf, particularly at the beaches of the Gold Coast in good old Queensland. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I learned this from an episode of the short-lived WB animated sitcom The Oblongs.
G'day, scumbags. No worries, that's Australian for comrades.
All right, so what's your S, Chris?
For the letter S, there were so many different things to choose from, but I went for the Sydney Opera House.
That's a good one. All right, what is the real answer?
Surf lifesaving.
I think this calls for another public service ad. So yes, the Surf Lifesavers are the elite Australian lifeguard unit that helps rescue Australians who get in trouble at the beach. And when they're not doing that, they compete against each other in a beloved national lifeguarding competition known as the Aussies. I wonder if all of the other Australian things resent them for taking that name. Anyway, I feel like I should get a point for this one, but let's go on to T. My choice for T was Tasmania, which is this little island here, located at the bottom of the country. I have heard Australians describe it as a sort of poor, hickish place, as island provinces sometimes have a reputation for being. But I would say it is more famous for its incredible biodiversity, which is also a common characteristic of isolated islands. There are a lot of plants and animals that exist in Tasmania, but nowhere else, such as the famous Tasmanian devil, seen here in this documentary footage. But now I am thinking that the correct answer probably won't be Tasmania, because that would be playing favorites with the states, and I should have learned my lesson from Queensland. Anyway, what do you have, Chris?
For the letter T, I've gone for everyone's favourite Australian biscuit, Tim Tams.
And the answer?
Thongs.
Well, seems the Australians have a somewhat different definition of this word than we do.
I had considered actually doing F for flip-flop, but then I remembered in Australia they call them thongs, but it just never occurred to me to make that T.
Next we come to the letter U, which I am convinced must surely stand for Uluru Rock, one of Australia's most iconic natural landmarks. It is a massive sandstone mountain located right in the middle of the continent and the subject of many a beautiful photograph. The Australians originally called it Ayers Rock after one of their politicians, but that name is considered pretty politically incorrect today, so most now just call it by its original Aboriginal name, which is Uluru. So what did you get, Chris?
For you, I've gone for the same as JJ, Uluru.
Nice. Okay, so did we both get it right?
Ute.
Okay, so I know what this is. A ute is what the Australians call this particular sort of sports utility vehicle they have that is like a combination of a pickup truck and a sedan. Driving preposterously large vehicles is of course one of the most beloved traditions of us here in the New World. I would guess that maybe the reason they didn't go with Uluru was because of some of the lingering sensitivities around Australia's indigenous peoples. I know a lot of Aboriginal Australians consider it a sacred site and don't really like the way that the whiteys treat it as just one more trite tourist thing. For V, I decided to go with Vegemite, the most iconic Australian food. I actually have a can of it right here that an Australian guy I went on a date with once gave to me as a gift. Vegemite is a slime made of yeast that the Australians love to spread on their toast and apparently stick in a bunch of other food as well.
Today I'm going to show you how I make a Vegemite cheesecake.
It is certainly a food that the rest of the world loves to make fun of Australians for eating. But now I am actually a little bit worried about this choice because it says here that Vegemite is a registered trademark of the Bega Cheese Corporation. And I don't really know if the government would want to be promoting a private business on their coins. But let's see what Chris did first.
For V, it's got to be Vegemite.
And did we both get it right?
Vegemite.
Oh, so we did. Sweet. I am curious what the royalty situation is, though. Now for W, I guessed Waltzing Matilda. Now, Waltzing Matilda is a song, but contrary to popular belief, it is not the Australian national anthem. The Australian national anthem is actually a considerably lamer song called Advance Australia Fair. No, Waltzing Matilda is just a sort of more general patriotic song, best known for its incredibly dense use of old-fashioned Australian slang. But because Australia did not officially designate a national anthem until 1984, Waltzing Matilda has a long history of being used as a sort of de facto national anthem, and I think this is where a lot of the confusion comes from. In fact, it is such a famous song that there is a whole other famous song about it. It is called And the Band Played Waltzing Matilda, and it is a harrowing tale of one Australian man's experiences during the First World War. Throughout the song, he repeatedly says, and the band played Waltzing Matilda, in order to contrast the grim horrors of war that he experiences with the sort of stiff formalities of patriotism that government uses to justify those horrors. Anyway, a very important song in Australian culture, and I would be very surprised if this wasn't the choice for W. But let us see if Chris agrees.
For W, there were a ton of choices, but I've gone for Wombat, and its delightfully square-shaped poops.
That's a good one too. All right, let us see what the real answer is.
Weet-Bix.
Weet-Bix? Seriously? That horrible cereal with the big wheat chunks that my grandfather used to eat? That's more important than Waltzing Matilda? Next time the Australians should just get me to describe their culture to them, because I think they are making some serious mistakes here. Also, just how many brand names are getting free advertising on these Australian coins? I mean, what does Weet-Bix's cereal rival Brit think of this? X is, of course, a very hard letter to start nouns with. I made a whole video about this, as you may recall. And knowing how we English speakers treat the letter X, I'm sure that the correct answer for this one will be something lame like Australians love to exercise or something lame like that. But here is my hardcore answer, Xanthoria, which is the Latin genus for this type of Australian palm tree type plant, better known by its more literal name, grass tree, or its more problematically racist name, black boy. I don't know if grass trees are really all that iconic. I feel like